I'm Paul Arthur. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we have lined up for you tonight. A Toronto high school is locked down after gunfire is exchanged on the streets outside. Plus, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says it's time to start winding down the temporary foreign worker program. And after 50 visits by Lethbridge police, a problem property on the north side is shut down. Thanks for joining us. Toronto police are investigating a shooting that took place today near York Memorial Collegiate Institute in the city's West End. The high school was locked down for hours as witnesses say they heard shots being fired just before noon. Police say two groups of people exchanged gunfire on the street outside of the school, which police are calling a targeted event. A 17-year-old boy was wounded and taken to hospital, as was a woman in her 30s who was simply driving down the street at the time and got caught in the crossfire. One suspect has been arrested and a gun was recovered. Police continue to search for additional suspects. Meanwhile, the mayor of Vaughan, Ontario, is demanding changes to Canada's criminal justice system after a home invasion last Sunday that claimed the life of a 46-year-old man. Police say there was also a second home invasion on the same night, less than a kilometer away. The brother of Abdul Alim Farouk says his brother died a hero.
He was a family man. He loved his children immensely. And, 3 cowards came in and changed everything for our family that night. And I urge that everyone reflect on that. And, as Canadians, we understand that we need some change. We need ourselves to feel safe going at home. When we lock our door, it's our choice when we open it the next morning. It's not someone else's.
When the system makes it seem like there's no consequence and there's no repercussion, this is where we end up. That's what has to end. I do not want to have to convene another press conference like this, and I know no other mayor across this region does either, where somebody, some incredible person like Alim, lost their life because of government inaction.
And just yesterday, a 12-year-old boy was charged for an attempted drive-by murder in Markham, Ontario, while he was on release orders for unrelated violent offenses. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre wants the Liberal government to scrap the temporary foreign worker program. Poilievre also wants them to stop issuing visas under the program. He made the comments today in Mississauga, Ontario.
The workers themselves, they are not bad people. They are not the problem. They are being taken advantage of by liberal corporate elites who want to use them to drive down wages. And of course, we continue to support the dream of all immigrants to Canada, immigrants who come here to be Canadian, to get a job, work hard, contribute, and live a good life. That is part of the Canadian promise, and that is not what we're addressing here today. We're addressing a program that temporarily brings people from low-wage countries to replace Canadians and drive down the wages of our people. That's why Conservatives are calling on the Carney government to permanently scrap the temporary foreign worker program and to stop issuing visas for any new temporary foreign workers coming into the country. Under this proposal, existing permits would be wound down until the program is entirely eliminated.
Accessoride workers in Lethbridge have taken their first step toward a potential strike after bargaining reached an impasse. The Amalgamated Transit Union Local 987, which represents Accessoride workers, said the move comes after months of exhausting negotiations with Lethbridge Transit. The president of the ATU, Travis Oberg, says Lethbridge Transit's unwillingness to withdraw concessionary proposals continues to be an obstacle.
We're not seeing the significant movement we need from the city, and therefore that's the process that we're moving forward with. We believe the city's got some concessionary proposals on the table that they've been unwilling to move away from. In addition to that is we're looking to get some minimum standards for loading and unloading times set in our collective agreement, which provides safety for our operators and safety for the riders that use our system. In addition to that, we are also looking for a fair equity pay compensation that is in line with our transit operators collective agreement. The percentage to get us to that is not significant. There is some market adjustments that can address that, but we're only looking at $2 to $3 in difference in wages that we're trying to achieve to ensure that they get that fair compensation with. There's 45 Accessoride employees under this collective agreement. Physically, if the dates all align, could be in a position prior to municipal elections, and we could be in a position to strike before that.
On the other side, the City of Lethbridge says they will continue to work towards a new collective agreement and are now awaiting dates for the ATU's mediator meetings. Immigration was one of the topics of discussion as the Alberta Next panel met with a crowd of about 400 people last night in Medicine Hat. The panel is looking for input on how to shape its relationship with Ottawa moving forward. When the discussion moved to Alberta's proposal to take greater control over immigration by restricting some newcomers' access to social services, that brought strong opinions from some audience members.
People don't emigrate to Alberta, they emigrate to Canada. They go in Canada to places where they can find jobs, social services, education, and their own communities, speaking their own language and supporting their own culture. That's why we have immigrants in Alberta.
Thank you.
Sorry, if I could just respond to that, Bruce. In 2023, Canada had the fourth largest increase of population of any country in the world, and that was driven exclusively by immigration. Now, we all know immigration properly handled is a true asset, as it has been throughout most of our history, but that's not where we are at now. And in fact, for the last, I think it's 5 or 6 quarters, Canada's GDP per capita has declined. That means, although the economy might be growing a little bit because of all the people coming in, we are collectively getting poorer. So the federal government has done, I'm going to suggest, a very poor job in the immigration system. And the gentleman that was talking earlier about a crisis being the opportunity, well, it may well be on hand, and I can see perhaps a lot of pushback from other provinces wanting to make some changes over the system that would benefit them as well.
The panel will travel to Lethbridge for another town hall next week. That will be followed by stops in Airdrie, Grand Prairie, and Calgary to wrap up the panel's tour before the end of September. Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Toronto for 2 days of meetings with his cabinet. Carney says the meetings will focus on industrial strategy and the major projects legislation. And with a budget expected in the fall, Carney says they have to look at government spending.
Federal government has been growing spending as a whole at over 7% a year on average for over a decade. That's twice the rate of growth of the economy on average. It's not a sustainable situation. So we need to rein in spending. We need to find efficiencies. We're in the process of finding efficiencies. One of the big elements of the discussions over the next 2 days will be about those efficiencies. It won't be the final discussion of that. We'll continue to work on this right up to the budget. So we need to do that. But at the same time, we need to invest as a country. And it's finding those efficiencies. It's the responsible thing to do with Canadians' money. This is Canadians' money. It's not the government's money. It's a responsible thing to do with that. But in finding those efficiencies, we create the room for these big investments.
Carney also says Canada is making progress on small tariff deals with the U.S. for key sectors. This comes after revealing that he had a phone call with U.S. President Donald Trump at the start of the week. Carney says they spoke at length about a wide range of issues, from trade to employment, but he also warned there's no guarantee Ottawa will secure any of the deals under discussion as the Trump administration works to squeeze the Canadian economy. Former Quebec Premier Jean Charest says Canada will eventually thank U.S. President Trump for giving the country a much-needed economic shakeup. He told business leaders in Quebec City that Trump is pulling Canada out of its, quote, lethargy and forcing its leaders to rethink the economy. Charest is currently a member of Prime Minister Mark Carney's Council on Canada-U.S. Relations. He suggested the country, under Carney's leadership, will accelerate big projects, rethink federalism, and redefine the country's role in the world. The Law Society of Alberta has disbarred John Carpe, president of the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, for what it claims is a serious breach of professional ethics. The decision is tied to Carpe's decision to hire a private investigator to surveil a Manitoba judge during the time of the COVID-19 restrictions. Carpe called the disbarment decision a vindictive abuse of process, and he is considering appealing the ruling. Carpe admitted admits he made an error in judgment by hiring the private investigator, but says it was done to illuminate a legitimate public policy question. Were politicians and judges complying with the stringent COVID restrictions that they themselves had imposed on the public? Vancouver area home sales rose almost 3% in August compared with last year to roughly 1,960. Greater Vancouver Realtors says it's still about 19% below the 10-year seasonal average, but the market appears to be recovering from the first half of the year. The city's real estate board says data suggests that buyers shopping in more expensive price points are re-entering the market in a meaningful way. In the Middle East, some new satellite images are raising concerns about Israel's long-suspected atomic weapons program. The images show construction work has intensified on a major new structure at a facility that experts say could be a new reactor or a facility to assemble nuclear arms. We get more from John Gambrell with the Associated Press.
Satellite pictures analyzed by the Associated Press show an immense construction project ongoing at the site of Israel's long-suspected nuclear weapons program. These satellite photos are of Dimona, that's in the Israeli desert, and has a heavy water reactor that's been functioning since the 1960s. That heavy water reactor, experts say, provides Israel with the plutonium for its nuclear weapons as well as the isotope tritium. That isotope is used to boost and also miniaturize nuclear weapons down to fit onto missile warheads. Now, the Israelis have never confirmed or denied having a nuclear weapons program, and the Israeli government did not respond to questions from the Associated Press over this construction. However, analysts who spoke to the AP, as well as the AP's own satellite analysis of pictures, show that this project could be any number of things, including what experts say could be a new heavy water reactor that could allow Israel to potentially build more nuclear weapons or potentially service the ones they already have.
But to reiterate, Israel has not confirmed or denied having atomic weapons. China showcased its military might in a parade Wednesday marking the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II as it seeks to wield greater influence on the global stage. China's leader Xi Jinping, Russia's President Vladimir Putin, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, and other world leaders gathered to watch the giant military procession. The Chinese military showed off aerial and underwater drones, hypersonic missiles, and fighter jets and bombers in a 90-minute event attended by the leaders of about 24 countries. Earlier today on social media, U.S. President Donald Trump posted to President Xi, quote, "Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America." However, when he faced reporters at the White House, he toned down the rhetoric.
When they did what they did, I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very, very impressive. But I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching. My relationship with all of them is very good. We're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two. I think that we helped China very much, as you know, when they talk about freedom. And I don't believe that, and maybe I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe that America, that the United States was acknowledged for helping China to gain its freedom, but perhaps that was just a sleight of hand. I mean, I was very surprised. I watched the speech last night. President Xi's a friend of mine, but I thought that the United States should have been mentioned last night during that speech because we helped China very, very much.
In his speech, Chinese President Xi says the Chinese people's rejuvenation cannot be blocked. In local news, the Alberta Sheriff's Safer Communities and Neighbourhoods, or SCAN unit, shut down and boarded up a drug house in North Lethbridge on Wednesday. The property was subject to 55 visits from Lethbridge Police between January of 2024 and May of this year, after numerous calls of reported assaults, disturbances, and suspected drug overdoses. Investigators were able to observe activity consistent with drug dealing and found used syringes in the alley behind the property. SCAN was able to obtain a court order to close the property at 1212 10th Avenue North for 90 days. The hope is that this will provide relief and safety for the surrounding neighborhood, which is in proximity to St. Paul Elementary School.
A property like this being so close to a school presents an increased risk to the public and an increased risk to the students that are now, as of this week, going to school and have to walk by properties like this. And the information we had from complainants that they were genuinely fearful for their safety and the safety of people in this community. Complainants described a property that had a large amount of traffic to and from the property, people on foot, vehicles coming to the property. Complainants said they thought they observed drug use occurring on the property, as well as a high frequency of police activity and police response to the property. It's our hope that that 90-day closure breaks the cycle of violence and drug activity that was happening at this property, but it also gives the community a chance and a break from what was occurring here.